I think that's breaking down, because I had a conversation in class a week ago because the DVD player broke down, and so practically I asked the question, what is the function of religion in your life? And these are 18 to 22-year-olds, and for the most part they said religion isn't important until there's a crisis. Then it's like going home to mom, because I need that.
Right.
And so there's that kind of crisis mentality that religion is there only when there's a crisis. But right now, as a youngster, you feel immortal, and those questions aren't there. You're trying to keep up with studies and going out and partying, and religion is not as important. And I think this is really interesting because evangelical Christians are really upset their children aren't going to church. But that's across the board. Folks are not going to church or temple or whatever under 25.
Well, yeah, they're not. The LA Times reports that many young adults, specifically young adults, are moving away from religion, from organized religion, because they don't like religion's association with conservative politics. Now, religion's position on homosexuality and abortion were cited as main motivators for this movement, but I wonder why you think this so-called
I think there's two reasons why students are alienated. One is moralism. And moralism translates into the issues around sexuality. You quoted abortion and homosexuality.
Right.
Students living with one another. And certainly that raises all sorts of questions because religion has a negative issues around sexuality. The second is dogmatism. It just doesn't make sense to us. So what you're finding is that young folks are discarding dogmatism and moralism and saying, I want to take a part of this and this and this spiritually, and they're creating hybrid spiritualities.
Why do you think about this so-called God gap that exists in politics, this idea that young people are moving away from religion?
I think that they do move away from religion when they're young adults, perhaps because they don't need it at that moment. They have other things on their mind and they don't really think they need it. But I know that when they get married and start having children, it becomes an issue.
Okay.
And then they'll probably go one way or the other, but they often go back to what they were brought up with,
Jody,
because it's more comfortable.
Yeah, I want to say, I mean, in the Jewish community where you have very progressive synagogues and not homophobic and so on, I mean, you still don't have young people who are going to synagogue too much. And I don't really think it's a political issue, and I don't know that they necessarily would associate organized religion with homophobia or sort of a repressive sexuality. They might just find it boring and irrelevant. And I agree, but especially with Judaism is so focused on community and family that it does seems more important once you have kids to raise them in that type of framework, so that you have the holidays, and it becomes really enjoyable with little kids. But as a college student or a teenager, it just looks like something that's going to limit you. You'd rather do other things.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the word faith, which some have defined. I think you kind of defined it a little differently than I've heard, but basically the belief in something with no proof. Okay. So what is faith, and why is it important to some people?
I would challenge your definition, because you're speaking belief. That's a cognitive, conceptual sort of thing. Faith is a relationship term. The word credo that we get creeds from, it means I place my heart in as a relationship with God. So it's one of hope and trust and connectedness. And so it is something very different than a conceptual, doctrinal sort of thing. I affirm this. It is relationship. And that relationship comes out of, if you practice spirituality and spiritual practice, which is through meditation and prayer or connection, that pulls you out of the ordinary into something a little more in-depth.
Extraordinary. What do you think about faith?
Well, I pretty much rejected faith and belief. So it's hard for me to even identify with it, even though I was raised as a Catholic, and I was a Catholic until I was about 18 or 19 years old. And I started to question things. And then slowly but surely I moved away from it. And at this point, I can say that I don't believe in anything. And even atheists and humanists are taken aback when I say that, until I explain it. But I don't believe in anything that doesn't have any evidence in its corner. and you can take that as a philosophy, and that you only accept that which has evidence, and that you reject that which does not.
Right.
I would say, faith is not such a big issue in Judaism. You're not judged on your faith. You're not let into the fold on your faith. It's what you do that's really crucial. The prayers all assume belief, faith in God, whatever. They're very God-centered. Though in the more liberal movements, you can have non-theistic references to the force that's there, to the sacred, not he, she, whatever. But the issue is, I think, and you can also practice Judaism in a way because you're looking at how it raises you up in terms of being a more refined person, more moral, but more sensitive, more aware, more awestruck by the world, and more mindful.
Well, do we need religion to be moral? Sam Harris, a prominent atheist, says that science should and can and should determine morality. So do we need religion to be moral?
No, but I think it helps for some people. It's really, and it's part of all religions have a code that in order to really be whole and to connect with higher power, that other dimension of life, you have to sort of follow your community's code of behavior. So it's another reinforcement for it. But I don't think it's indispensable.
It's not mechanistic. There were studies on faith by James Fowler, and the seventh stage, the highest stage of faith, there's a certain autonomy that is there. And when you correlate it with the studies of Lawrence Kohlberg in terms of morality, you get a Mother Teresa or you get a Dalai Lama who practices that naturally after living and connecting with something that has been a depth value and experience in his life, and I can testify that. I'm not good because of religion. I am good because of a relationship that I have that is really very meaningful, and therefore I want to continue that relationship. And it means that, yes, I do care about Jody, and I care about the people that are on the streets that are homeless. I care about the environment and the planet. It's because of a love that extends beyond myself and self-centeredness.
Well, religious books seem to prescribe a lot of rules in regards to sex and sexuality. So,
that's my feeling.
I want to ask, actually, you, Lois, first. Why do you think religions are so concerned with what we do when we're naked?
I don't know. It seems to have been almost from the beginning of time that people have focused on sexual aspects, and they demonize sex very often, and they have certain rigid rules about what is permitted and what isn't. Where it comes from, I don't know. It's just because it's so much a part of our lives, I suppose, that they felt they had to weigh in on it or create some rules about it. But I did want to say something about what you were just saying, and that is that I think we all get our morality from the same place. You attribute it to your feeling of religion or spirituality or whatever. I think it comes from our genes, our experience. I don't think it doesn't have anything to do with religion per se. You can be just as moral without religion as you can with it, and I think it comes from somewhere else inside of us.
I hear what you're saying, and I would agree with half of that, but I know that there is a connectionness with the divine that gives me that other extra energy that allows me to work in a leper colony for a month or the House of the Dying Destitute in Calcutta as an orderly, because I could see and honor the divine in that person. And as a 23-year-old, I can get up in the middle of the night and talk to folks who are in crisis, and rather than choosing myself. And so it is not all totally genetic. It comes from a practice of denial of self-centeredness.
Well, there are humanists who do those things too, and they don't feel that they need to do it from a feeling of God or supernaturalism or whatever you might call it, or spiritualism.
For me, it has deepened my relationship of love for human beings.
I have no doubt that's.
I have not projected that onto you. I said for me.
Yes, yes.